Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Alex and Deus Talk Football. And of course, Alex, we have to talk about the main guy, and for me, the main contender to win the Ballon d'Or 2026. He already yesterday or today, it's officially confirmed. He's winning the Golden Boot for the second time in 3 years. Harry Kane, 61 goals, hat trick in the German Cup final. Wow.
Unbelievable performance, but I have to say Bayern weren't very composed in the first half. And I had the feeling that when Kane scored his first goal in the second half, that it was massive relief for Bayern. I think they were struggling a little bit in the first half. Can't really tell you why. Maybe they knew they had to win the cup to make it a really memorable season. And once he scored his first of 3 goals, Bayern turn on the style. Kane with a hat-trick, Bayern with a double. What an absolutely brilliant season for Kane and for Bayern Munich. Just one thing.
Just missing the Champions League.
They should have won the Champions League. They didn't. But I think they have to enlarge their squad next season. They have to have a bigger squad because Bayern's weakness was their bench. We've spoken about that before. Bayern's weakness very much the bench. They haven't got the quality on the bench. No disrespect to the youngsters on the bench. No disrespect at all to Nicholas Jackson of Senegal, who joined Bayern from Chelsea. 11 goals he scored, but alongside Jackson, there just wasn't enough quality to come on and replace top players who went off. So I think that is where they'll have to improve. One thing that surprised me, Antonio, was last night, after the fantastic performance against Stuttgart, Uli Hoeneß, the honorary president, criticised sporting director Max Ebel and said his chances of remaining at Bayern weren't too good, 60-40, and that surprised a lot of people in Germany. What do you make of that?
I'm not surprised at all because I don't know what Bayern is thinking about trying to buy for almost 100 million euro. Again, another guy from the Premier League, but not Harry Kane elite level. Anthony Gordon, I think that's his name. I think he's not buying quality. And it will be the same mistake like when they bought Palhinha today, made the goal that saved
The savior
saves the
for
Tottenham
Tottenham.
Hotspur. Yeah, but he was never a match. He was never even a bench for Jozo Kimmich. I think that was bad business. Thomas Tuchel, bad business at the time. And even Bayern changed the CEO, the sports director. And of course, I think Bayern has a lot of quality inside Germany to bet in. They have to start looking more to the academy. We talked about this in the last episode. Forget about the Premier League. Forget about spending that kind of money in a guy that will never replace Luis Diaz, will never replace Olise, will never replace Harry Kane. We're talking about a trio that Bayern scored over 184 goals this season, all competitions. The numbers
But what happens
they
when
only
one
lose.
of them is injured? If Anthony Gordon is a backup, he wouldn't replace them, but as a backup. Now, there's a new twist to that story.
Alex,
There's a new-
100 million euro for a backup, that's too much.
There's a new twist
That's
to
too
that
much.
story, Antonio. You might have heard it. I just heard it on television. Alex Nübel, the goalkeeper, the Stuttgart goalkeeper, he's not going to be returning to Stuttgart, and he won't be going back to his parent club, Bayern. And Bayern want to offload him. Newcastle have come up and said they are interested in Alex Nübel, the goalkeeper, and they might be in the frame of lowering the fee for Anthony Gordon if Alex Nübel goes to Newcastle, and then Anthony Gordon wouldn't cost that much if he goes to Bayern. That is one big story that's come up this evening.
I
Possibly.
think it's not an elite signing. I would prefer to go for Adeyemi, who plays on the left and on the right, and who could replace not with the same quality, but with the speed, with the technique. Either Lees or Luis Diaz. I think Anthony Gordon is nowhere near the quality, the intensity, the elite performance as Luis Diaz, who came from the Premier League, and as Olise, who came from the Premier League, but nowhere near 100 million euro. That would be a dumb move from Bayern. And even Uli Hoeneß saying, for example, Mourinho was on the stadium, it was in Olympian Stadium, maybe probably looking for Olise, of course, Jose Mourinho and even Harry Kane being, I don't know, tempted to go to Barcelona, and Uli Hoeneß said they don't even have the money to buy from us Harry Kane. So I think
Yeah.
Bayern shouldn't go like Real Madrid and Barcelona, spending a lot of money. That's how we got to this conversation in the first place. Barcelona is bankrupt. They are bankrupt because of lack of good decisions in the previous years, and Bayern is the money machine but cannot spend 4 or 500 million euro. It's not that kind of team and that kind of football project. That's a different story from Barcelona. So I think the team is well. They have to find a replacement for Alfonso Davies, and they have to find a good right back, an elite right back, which is not Stanisic, with all the respect.
Okay, let's look at the Germany squad. That made a lot of headlines. The World Cup squad, Julian Nagelsmann, of course. We spoke about this already, but I have to mention the Manuel Neuer nonsense again. He recalls the 40-year-old Neuer, who injured himself again, don't forget, just before the German Cup final, and Jonas Obig had to stand in for him again. Now, it is a risk he is a world-class keeper. We all know that, but he's 40 and he's very injury prone. But let me remind everybody that Dino Zoff, the legendary Italian keeper, he won the World Cup in 1982 with Italy at the ripe old age of 40. He was at least 40, Dino Zoff. So Neuer could do it again, of course, but it has, of course, derailed all the goalkeeping plans with Oliver Baumann. Just quick answer. What do you think? Do you think it's a good idea to take Neuer?
Alex, I think the conversation shouldn't be around the age of Manuel Neuer, because we see Ronaldo is going 41 plus years old. Messi, almost 40, is going to play. I think what we should put on the table is who is better today than Manuel Neuer. Baumann, Ter Stegen, they're nowhere near the level of the GOAT of the goalkeepers, Manuel Neuer.
Okay, let's take a look at some other decisions. Nagelsmann taking Leroy Sané, who plays for Galatasaray. Now, that's been criticized a lot in Germany. I think I can understand where Nagelsmann's thinking. I think he knows what he can expect from Leroy Sané. He's an experienced player. He's been at big tournaments, and taking Said El-Mallah of Cologne, that would have been a risk, in my view, because lots of papers shouting out and saying he should have taken El-Mallah. But, I mean, come on, what experience does El-Mallah have at a World Cup or at any tournament? And taking Leroy Sané, for me, is much less of a risk than taking inexperienced youngster like El-Mallah.
I agree, but I think Adeyemi, for example, should have gone to that World Cup.
Yeah,
I think he
I
has
agree
the quality. He can play left, right, and he can even play an undercover number 9. He's not been in his best this year for Dortmund, but no one has been. But I think in unpredictability, speed, technique, one-on-one, I think he probably, maybe, is the best German player today, one-on-one, playing on the wing. So I think he should have gone to the World Cup. But of course, Nagelsmann pointing today, looking at this lineup, looking at the 26-man list on the offensive side, I think he's pointing out the 2 main players and the 3 main players in the offensive side: Musiala, Florian Wirtz, and Kai Havertz.
Now, there were, of course, some borderline decisions in the Germany squad, like Nadim Amiri, Pascal Gross, Malik Thiam of Newcastle. Pretty lucky, some of them, I'd say. Understand Pascal Gross, because he's been around for quite a long time. But Amiri, he's had a good season with Mainz, but this is the World Cup, of course. But, of course, you have to take a risk. You can't just take players like Goretzka, who've been there for ages. So I understand Nagelsmann's decisions. What about Thomas Tuchel and the England side? Big headlines, because he didn't take Phil Foden, and he didn't take Cole Palmer, and he didn't take Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, Phil Foden, I understand he's had a poor season, but I would have taken Cole Palmer. He's had a so-so season, and I definitely would have taken Trent Alexander-Arnold. How do you see things?
A lot of people are, I would say, calling Mr. Thomas Tuchel the undercover boss, that he's playing for Germany and wasting the talent in England. It's a difficult job to fill in, because it's a difficult spot, because not a lot of people fell in love with Southgate, with the type and kind of football and the players he managed to take to to the last Euro and the World Cup, but he went to two finals. This is true. Playing good or bad football, he went to two finals. He could have won the World Cup in 2000 and not the World Cup, the Euro
Euros.
in 2024. He could have won against Spain, but he reached two finals, which is I think yeah, two finals. I think it's amazing for the kind of football he played. Very defensive, very structured. Of course, the main guy, Harry Kane, Alexander Arnold. You can debate. He's not being that much. He's not getting that much love in Real Madrid too. I think Cole Palmer, after Bellingham and Harry Kane and Bellingham, he's pure talent, the third best player in England, in English football. Not in England, in English football. Of course, Chelsea playing very bad. The changing coaches again wasn't good for him, but we cannot forget what he did in the FIFA Club World Cup almost a year ago when he destroyed Paris Saint-Germain with that left foot. That left foot is very, very strong from Cole Palmer, and he can play offensive midfielder. He can play on the wings. He can even be a number 9, a very useful guy for Harry Kane. But of course, there's always going to be a lot of discussion. A lot of people didn't like Southgate, but he went to two finals. Let's see what Thomas Tuchel is going to do.
We have to give a mention to Spanish coach Unai Emery, 5 times Europa League winner. That is a feat in itself. Congratulations to Unai Emery. And he built a really good side, Aston Villa, who had no problems in beating Freiburg.
Yeah, that was an unbalanced match. Freiburg tried to resist in the first half, but then when the first goal came, and that goal, that curveball from Buendia, former Bayer Leverkusen player with Xabi Alonso. What a goal! And then of course the experience. Good job by Freiburg. They did what they could. They went to the first final, but Unai Emery, he only lost the Europa League final with Arsenal. Imagine that.
Unbelievable, Unai Emery. Now we can't go, Antonio,
Mr. Good evening.
We can't go without saying goodbye to the GOAT, the man himself, Pep Guardiola. His last game for Manchester City. They lost 2-1 to Aston Villa, but he won't mind. But there were a lot of tears at the Etihad. Guardiola, the benchmark, teaching teams in the Premier League to play out from the back, and everybody tried, as far as they could, copy his style. Now, I don't envy his replacement or his successor. It might be Enzo Maresca. What do you think?
I think in 10 years, he made something that looked impossible. He turned Premier League into a boring competition in terms of we know who's going to win. In 10 years, you win 6 times. You lose 2 to Liverpool, Klopp, and then Arne Slot, and now to Arteta. He won 4 in a row. That never happened in Premier League history, I think. He could have won the 5th, but he lost to Arne Slot, his biggest rival in the Premier League, Jurgen Klopp. He's going to be missed in Manchester City. I think the project is going to be a little bit different without him. Of course, I wouldn't want to be in the shoes of the replacement, whoever he is. And we have to think: is Guardiola bored of coaching normal teams, or is does he want to go to a more manager or CEO or like Klopp in Leipzig in Red Bull, or is he aiming for the Spanish national coach who is doing a very good job?
He's Catalan. He won't want to take over Spain. I can't see that happening.
A lot of people talked about him to Brazil at the time, to Italy, to Argentina, even to Portugal. Imagine this. But I think he leaves as the GOAT. With all the respect to Alex Ferguson, it's a big discussion, but I think the job he left, the work he left in Etihad, of course, with all the money, spent over 2 billion pounds or euros, whatever, won the Champions League, but in 10 years, 6 Premier League in the most competitive league in the world. That's only a job Pep Guardiola did, and props to him. And I think there's going to be the discussion: who is the GOAT of the Premier League, Alex Ferguson or Pep Guardiola? Leave it on the table.
Pep Guardiola, no contest for me. Pep Guardiola.
Very nice, Alex. And of course, next, just a little small prediction. We're gonna have time to talk about this next week. Arsenal, Paris Saint-Germain. Who's your favorite to win the title?
It's got to be PSG, of course. But Arsenal, after winning the Premier League, might be tougher than a lot of people think. Premier League might be tougher than a lot of people think, but anybody in their right senses has to say it's got to be PSG. Yeah. Plenty to look
I
forward
agree.
to then.
Let's see next week. Absolutely. Thank you very much for watching
Thank you.
another episode of Alex Tadeusz Talk About Football. See you next time. Don't forget to subscribe.